Welcome back to the continuation of our first paragraph of Ovid's Amores. We left off with Ovid heaping on the bad feelings, making Corinna, his girlfriend, feel as badly as possible about losing her hair. Right? If only she'd obeyed him, but she didn't. If only she'd done nothing to her hair, like he said. But she did do stuff to the hair. She treated it with harsh chemicals, fire, which we'll get to later. And now he's reminding her what could be. That if she had done nothing, her hair would be full and alive and beautiful. So the implication is that it is none of those things now. Neither full nor alive. And this is probably the one that hurts, stings the most, pulchra, beautiful. Semel coma fluxerat imum usque latus. Clause by clause, that's it. Kind of mixed it up. I did not put the verb at the end of this clause. You will note that every single other one will. But in poetry, of course, what is poetry? It's one of the most fun things to do, but it's been called organized violence perpetrated against everyday language. And so, a poet's job, one of many, is to expand the range of expression for the language, to make it alive. And so, you might have to get used sometimes that the verb isn't at the end. It's still in there. Hopefully you've parsed enough verbs that verbs kind of leap out from the page to you by now. Hopefully. I'm still doing subjects and verbs. Just because the subject is not necessarily at the beginning or the verb is at the end doesn't mean that I change my process. Subjects, verbs, and if there are, objects. And then if there are, adverbial pieces of information. Same. The hair had flowed. Do you feel the pluperfect there? Had flowed. And what is the aspect of the pluperfect? It's the vagus tense. Happened in the past, stayed in the past. Oof. The hair had flowed. Then the rest is all, really, good. Adverbial bits of information. Getting boxed. Hopefully you boxed a lot of this stuff. Had flowed all the way totally down the side. Down the flank. Had flowed totally down the flank, down the side. So evidently, her hair was very long. Very long. The hair had flowed once upon a time, no longer. All the way totally down the side. No more though, pluperfect. So you can imagine her sitting there listening to this. First sad, vulnerable, but then even more emotionally compromised as he goes on. Very tricky here. Here's my verb in the next one. This clause is only 3 words. But you have to infer the subject. Good. What was the subject of this verb? Is the hair. What was the subject of this verb? Very good. It was the hair. What's the subject of this verb? Even though it's not there, what should you infer that it is? Yes, it's the hair. It's the hair. It's the hair. Good. So, the hair. The hair was tenuous. There's my nominative adjective. It's describing the hair. The hair was thin. The hair was thin. Then you got the sick. Wait a second. Sick and ut, and there's a... Uh-oh. Tom sick. Yes, Tom's sick. Eat a tontus. This is going to be a result clause over here. The hair was so thin, was thin in such a way that it was, there's my verb. Oh my gosh, why was that subjunctive again? Good, it was that result clause. Sicut, just as. That it was just as. That the hair was just as. That it was just as. Just as. Oh my god, as. It brings on a simile. Brings on a simile. Yes, it's going to compare two things. Going to compare the hair and what's coming here. The hair, it was so thin that it was just as a thread. A thread which a spider weaves. Yes, did you box that? Good. Good. Yay. It was so thin that it was just as... Very tricky there, right? All that? But you just go clause by clause, and it's not many words. It was so thin that it was just as a thread, which a spider, we would say weaves, but evidently the Latin way for expressing kind of weaving, a spider weaving its web, they use the verb duco, to lead. Thread, which a spider weaves with a graceful foot. Now, ladies, let's pretend we're all ladies. Once upon a time we had hair, and our man is now comparing what our hair was and how thin it was, be fine, to a spider web. Because he thought as he was going to reminisce. He's going to reminisce about our hair. Now, isn't that weird? Isn't that weird? That our man is going to reminisce in depth about the way our hair was. First of all, he must have paid a lot of attention to our hair, which might have been flattering because we put a lot of time into it and effort and a lot of resources. Now it's gone. And he's comparing it, formally, what was, to the spider web. Let's keep going. Here is a clause. It's a little tricky because you get this neck. You get a neck, neck. This clause, first one, is that big. Color neck aterat. Subject, verb. And did you notice subject, verb? Very good. The color, erat. So many erats. Hopefully it was, she was, he was. But here we have our nominative subject, the color. The color was neither dark nor was it golden. But subject, verb, adverbial information. Ita, ut, ita. Uh-oh. Tom, so many result clauses. Don't you remember those result clauses? So we've had result clauses, right? We've had indirect questions. I wonder if there are some cum clauses coming. Yes, there are. Yes, there are. The color was neither dark nor was it gold, but each color was mixed. Subjects and verbs. And this clause goes from said to est. The other clause starts with ut and goes that way. So I've only gone from said to est. But each color was mixed. You can also say has been mixed. That's fine. Shh, it's okay. in such a way that, either color had appeared, had been seen. So evidently, the hair color of Corinna, in its natural state, seemed to have almost just natural highlights in it. She didn't need to go to a salon to get those highlights. They were just there. Wow. Indeed, wait, sorry, clause by clause, and I started with an adverb first. I apologize. I want to go clause by clause. How big is my clause? It's 2 words. It's 2 words. That's it. Hopefully you didn't go beyond this qualm. Hopefully you didn't go beyond that qualm. Did you? Don't. Just find your organizational units. First of all, you have a single word, right? There's your organizational unit. And there are categories for that organizational unit. It's called part of speech, which by now you ought to have some degree of mastery over. It will hurt me if you don't. Do you really want to hurt me? I probably don't have the rights to drop that song in here, so. Quidem skis, 2 words. One is a verb. This verb is giving me a clause, a bigger organizational unit than a word, a simple word. It's our main organizational unit when we compose. You should think of it as your main organizational unit. In your own writing and your own reading. In any language you come to. You're welcome. So here's my verb, skis. Skis, skis. See, I like the repetition there. Like, you know. She knows very well. But if she knows what she's supposed to do, why would she do otherwise? It's not rational. It's not rational. And so within that is like buried an accusation, right? I'll let you figure it out. Indeed, you know. There it is. 1 clause. Indeed, you know. Indeed, you know, qualm. Qualm, so annoying. It can be so many different things. These Q words. Oh my gosh, I get so angry. Here it is. Yes, it means how. I'm sure you can see that. It means how. Indeed, you know how. Still talking about the hair. How manageable. How tameable. Probably a pun here. How manageable or how tameable it was. Tameable, like an animal. And supposedly, presumably, if something has been tamed, that they listen to directions, namely this hair. So what is this talking about, right? So we're all pretending we're ladies and we have so much hair, and it's beautiful, it's thin, natural highlights, and we wake up in the morning and we have to comb it. What's that like? Well, if we're imagining an average human's head of hair, it's kind of difficult. It pulls, it tugs, it rips, it struggles. The hair, we're talking about the hair. We're still talking about our girlfriend's hair. Indeed, you know how teachable it was. How manageable. Lots of words from doculus. We get docile from it. Not a word with a very negative connotation, right? And this, of course, is an entire passage devoted to a situation that is ugly. And I'm not in any way meaning Corinna and her hair. The dynamic between these two is ugly.